Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
This is Mission Evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour's guest is Lon Milo DuQuette, internationally respected occult scholar, author, lecturer, musician, magician, and one of the most influential living teachers of Western esotericism. With decades of study in the Qabalah, Tarot, ritual magic, mysticism, and consciousness, Lon offers a very rare insight into the mechanics of the unseen world and our evolutionary path through it. Lon, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So, Lon, how long did your journey into the occult studies and magic begin?
Pretty much since the beginning. I'm 77 years old, and it's been sort of at least a journey of self-observation that, but like everybody, I had sort of I can't claim a generational mystical background any more than anybody else. But something's kind of weird happened. I was born in 1948, and by the time I was around 2, just as I was, I hadn't been walking very much, very long, when I had developed like a pain in my hip, and they thought it was polio at first because that was the big polio scare, and I had neighbor kids on both sides of my house with polio, and they took me to the doctor, and I didn't have polio. I had what they call Perthes hip, and it's named after the doctor that discovered it. But and there's no cure for it. There's the only treatment was to immobilize the patient, and maybe they'd outgrow it. But it was like it was a thing where my hip joint was literally just grinding itself. Okay. So they put me back in the crib. Okay. And to tell you the truth, I loved it. I must have been just born to be sedentary. And I would drift in and out of consciousness, like every 20 minutes awake and 20 minutes asleep, 24 hours a day. So it wasn't that I would, I'd fall asleep and sleep for 8 hours. No, just every other 20 minutes I was asleep. So I had this rare opportunity to drift between consciousness, waking consciousness and dream consciousness, and with not very much distraction at all to keep me from losing what I think we all have pre-linguistic memories. Okay. And I had memories of what I can only describe as being memories of being somebody else. And so it was a few different kinds of somebody else's, but the most I felt like I was an adult that I would later kind of figure out was like late or early 20th century I had this one memory where I was getting into a car that I would later identify as like a 1927 Roadster. Okay. And now this is before television or anything. Okay, we didn't have a television until like 1954 or something like that. Uh, but I had these vivid memories. I was in a trench with a bunch of other men, and I remember explosions, and I remember the sound of dirt falling on my on a helmet. And but the vivid one was this getting into this roadster and driving, and I was all excited, and I remember even the feeling. I remember the feeling even more than what I was observing, and I was so anxious and so happy, and I was driving down what I would later identify as the Pacific Coast Highway, old Highway 101 in California, going from like Los Angeles to Mexico. And I was to meet my girlfriend in Mexico. And I had all of those adult emotional feelings. Okay. And I think that helped me those years in the crib, staring up at space, thinking about my own existence and where I was before I was born and things like that. And I think all of us are born with that capacity, but we lose it as soon as the objective world around us distracts us and puts us and limits our dimension. Does that make any sense?
It makes total sense to me. Yes, for sure.
So,
What pivotal event or realization convinced you that the occult sciences are more than mythology?
well, later I would grow up, move back to California. My family moved us from California to Nebraska and then back to California when I graduated from high school. Right in 1966, when the psychedelic world was opening up, even in Nebraska, I said, if I ever had a chance to take that LSD, by golly, I'm going to do it. And I was a musician, professional musician, even at 17. Okay, a working musician and a songwriter. And I was playing at this club in Belmont Shore, California. And I walked into the restroom at a break, and a surfer kind of kid said, "Would you like to buy some LSD?" You know, and I said, "I sure would." You know, and I'd heard all of this stuff and read about it, Dr. Timothy Leary and Dr. Alpert and stuff. I read all the magazine articles about it, sort of the God pill and stuff. Well, I wanted that God pill because I knew consciousness was a whole bigger thing than everybody else, thinks. And it was an amazing experience. And I had the luxury of taking it. There was somebody in the next room in case, I freaked out or something. But I was alone all night, just with me. And before that, before the evening was over, I knew that everything was bigger than I ever imagined, and that everything was me. I know it sounds all
No, I'm right there. I'm right there with you. I'm a casualty of the '60s too, though. So,
Oh, okay. Well, you're holding up well. Okay.
oh, thank you.
Uh,
From your perspective, how does magic relate? Speaking of which, to human consciousness and evolution?
that's all it is. Okay, that's all it is. Magic is a series of magic and Qabalah. Okay, it's a series of thought processes meant to accelerate willed self-evolution. And magical techniques and Kabbalistic based magical techniques are truly the ultimate reason for it is not power over others, or it's not to walk on water and stuff. Maybe all that stuff comes along with it, but only because the expansion of all of the possibilities of human consciousness are activated, are lubricated, are put into practice. It's like peeling away layers of a glass onion. It's literally, as the Buddha said, hey, I'm not a god. I'm not a mystic. I'm not a magician. I just woke up. Okay. And magic is to help you, assist you in a dramatic and colorful way. Okay. It's not a boring magical art form. Okay. It's fun. It's colorful. You get to dress up even, but the whole purpose is to systematically wake up.
Do you feel humanity is currently undergoing a spiritual or esoteric awakening?
Yeah. Much, and I think everything that would say, no, we're just going to hell in a handbasket. Well, yeah, but I think that's a symptom of an advance, a step, a leap, if you will, in human consciousness.
Like the old falling apart before the new takes form?
There you go. And, well, the Gnostics would call that the EAO formula, nature seemingly ruined by catastrophe, only as sort of the phoenix nest, out of whose flames comes the next baby phoenix, I guess. But Crowley, Aleister Crowley, who
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt. We'll get into Crowley on the other side of a station break.
Okay.
Lon and I will return very shortly, so don't you go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. What is Qabalah? With us this hour discussing mysticism and divination is Lon Milo DuQuette, occult scholar, author, musician, and magician. Lon, how does the Qabalah map the structure of consciousness?
Pretty accurately, I would say. Qabalah is not a book, okay, but there's lots of Kabbalistic textbooks, okay, ancient ones. For those starting from square one, we could say it's the mystical and esoteric tradition of Judaism. Okay. But the oldest Kabbalistic text that's actually written in Hebrew, it's sort of the founding document. It's called the Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Formation, as if this is creation. Okay, it's not a narrative Bible story but deals with almost creation on a quantum physics or a astrophysics point of view. And it uses the Hebrew alphabet as almost like flashcards trying to explain this. And there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And they say the 22 letters, those are the words that God used to create existence. And those words are made up of letters, and they're the 22 letters. That's sort of the allegory of the whole thing. But the Sefer Yetzirah are just simply, and it's just like a pamphlet. Okay, it's not even a book, you know. It said Yah, or deity, created everything in 32 mysterious paths of wisdom. Ooh. And that includes 10 numbers out of nothing. So 0 to 10. Okay. Everything was created with those 10 numbers and then those 22 letters. Okay. And then it goes to work to show how everything in a manifested universe can be explained with those 10 numbers and those 22 letters. And those 22 letters are shown in modern times with the flashcards of the tarot, because there's 22 letters, 22 tarot trumps or greater arcana. And each of those tarot cards are assigned one of those Hebrew letters. Okay. And the 32 paths of, or the 10 out of nothing are the 10 cards in the lesser arcanas. Each suit is 10. Well, here, I'll show you in my own tarot deck here if I can find. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay. Those 10 bubbles. Okay, I'll get it out of my name there. 10 bubbles, those circles, those are the 10 numbers that come out of nothing. And they spend a lot of time talking about that nothing too. Okay, which takes us right into the quantum level. Okay. Now, it sounds all spooky and hard, but it really isn't. It really isn't. There's those 10 emanations, and that top one would be like Godhead, the singularity of existence. If we back our camera up as far back as we can go and put everything into one shot, okay, that's the singularity of Godhead. And these are lower emanations of consciousness, okay, all the way down to your head, okay, from Godhead to your head and everything in between. And the process that we just got through talking about, the process of waking up, is here we are asleep within a dream, 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 within a dream. Okay. And our whole thing is waking up step by step to those different levels of consciousness until the supreme awakening. These last three are sort of the last stages that Buddha went through, okay, just before his great awakening. And the paths that connect those are like circuitries, 22 different conduits of intelligent energy going back and forth, like a model train transformer. When you turn it up, it transforms the the frequency of electricity back and forth. So to go from like 10 to 9, okay, there's the Hebrew letter and there's the tarot card that does that. And it steps down the consciousness frequency to go there, but going up, it turns it up. And so it's a alternating current. Okay. It's really good stuff.
So where'd the tarot come from? I mean, it looks like it's so sophisticated.
Well, the numbers and the letters are sophisticated, but tarot is like the okay, how would we put this in pictures? Okay. Now, I don't believe that tarot cards that we have today, and this is my tarot deck, by the way. How have you lived so long without having this tarot deck? The tarot wasn't invented, at least my understanding, it wasn't invented as a Kabbalistic tool. It was the potential of a Kabbalistic tool because human consciousness got a hold of it. In the same way that our generation's consciousness, if we can say a generation has a consciousness, our consciousness was brought together and changed and mutated by the invention of radio and television. Okay. And in the 15th century or the 16th century, the human consciousness of the Western world, anyway, was altered by the universal fascination with playing cards.
Was it a game to start out with?
It was two kinds of games to start with. The Greater Arcana was a game just called, it was wildly popular, called Mamluk. And that was like bridge. And that's like the Greater Arcana cards. Bridge, Tarofi, or I know I'm pronouncing it right or incorrectly. Tarochi or Taruki was a parade, like the Tournament of Roses parade, but it was a parade, a triumphal parade that had a hierarchical structure to it. Like the head guy was the first guy in the parade, and the second guy in the parade took second place. So the first guy triumphed him or trumped him. So it was a hierarchical thing, and some cards had a greater value than others. And you'd play it like bridge. I'm sorry, this card here trumps your card, so it gives me more score. So it was like that. Okay, and it was wildly popular with the aristocracy of Northern Europe because they could afford to have real live artists paint it, because in their parade they had the gods of the Greek and Roman gods. Okay, they had moral qualities like and virtues. Okay, like faith, hope, and charity. They all had their, okay, and they had characters from the culture around them. They had the Pope, and they had the Emperor, and they had the Empress, and they had religious figures like the High Priestess, okay, who used to be Popess even, and the magicians and stuff, and they had the devil, and okay, and then they had the things like fortitude and balance and stuff. And they had as many as, I think they had as many as maybe 60 different things over the years. Okay.
How did it transform? How can the tarot serve as a gateway to self-awareness and transformation at this point?
Because it's already doing it. Okay. It's an ordered deck of tarot cards would be like the, Kabbalistically speaking, would be like the universe as it really is, perfectly operating. Okay. We don't think that the universe is operating perfectly because our lives are so screwed up. But no, the universe is doing exactly what it should be doing, everything on cue. The reason we don't see it is because we have insufficient powers of perception to view it that way. We're not awake enough.
How do you distinguish between genuine occult practices and superstition or fantasy?
You have to have a certain level of maturity and to fully grasp what magic is about. And Aleister Crowley said, look, if you want to get into magic for unscrupulous reasons, but you're really serious about getting into magic, go ahead, because by the time you learn what magic is and what it's about, you'll realize that your unscrupulous initial desires was total BS. Okay. You know, so to be a magician, to work magic, you have to be the equivalent and have to develop yourself into the equivalent of what the yogis would say, self-mastery.
Well, it's time again, Lon, and I will be right back to continue our discussion. So stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Magic, illusion, or delusion. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're discussing the occult with Lon Milo DuQuette. His website is lonmiloduquette.net. Lon, can you explain the relationship between subconscious mind and occult work?
Well, in a sense, ceremonial magic is only the outward activity or an outward act that is triggering inward faculties. Okay. My whole thing was it was shortly after my bombshells of early psychedelic experience. I wanted to be a first-class Eastern mystic. Okay, and we were into yoga and things like that, and I kept wanting, because this is what I observed. I wasn't into magic. I was into like yoga and Zen and esoteric Buddhism, and but I eventually discovered that I kept thinking how cool I was going to look gaining enlightenment. Okay, and gee, I'm going to look cool losing my ego, you know. And that almost was impossible for me to overcome. I couldn't break in, but I wanted to be what was in. But my technique needed to utilize the mechanics of outside to do it. I needed to work with my inner faculties, and I don't want to sound chauvinistic, but in the East, it just seems that the practitioner is more naturally inclined to close their eyes and go within and peel away all the things that they're not, okay, to get to that serene, smooth point. But in the West, okay, we're not inclined to do that. And I don't know, it's not genetic or anything. It's just the kind of the Western way. We like scripture, we like ritual, we like things outside of ourselves, even though we know that what we're doing when we pick up the wand and wag it around, that it's not really that stick we're working with. It's the will that of our focused intent and
so do the tools simply help focus the intent and the will of the individual?
Yeah.
And then we've put the power into the hands of the tools inadvertently.
Well, we're using the tools until we understand that they're inner things. Okay. And it's like a training ground for internal things, and once you've made the connection that wand is an interior power and an interior tool, then that wand has power. Okay,
but you can wave it around all you want to without engaging the interior, and you're not going to have any effect.
It's just a stick. Yeah. And so the magic isn't for everybody. It's sort of a lonely art form, in so much that it's a dramatic spiritual practice that just has one audience and one actor and one stage and one terribly, terribly ruthless critic. And so it truly isn't for everybody.
Lon, how does one safely begin a magical or esoteric practice without falling into delusion?
Well, usually you fall into magic because of delusion. Okay, because some people are just attracted to it because they have a sense that this is going to be my way. Okay, and that's good, because they have a sense that it is going to be my way, and that they fall in love with the outer forms of it, because they sense that somewhere in there it's the thing for them. I tell people, hey, just do what you're attracted to at first. There may be 5 or 6 things that you say, boy, I'd like to get into that, and do it for a while. Okay. Nothing is wasted on your journey. Okay. You could view entire incarnations as, well, I'm doing what I'm attracted to, But the whole thing with magic is that I believe human consciousness as in general has undergone an expansion, so that we can see what was once a very, very small and focused magical art form or spiritual art form of the medieval magicians that only a few people were attracted to, and out of them only a few understood what they were doing. What is a demon? You know.
That was my next question. You've written extensively on angels and demons and entities. How do you explain their nature?
Well, we're all hardwired, with a six-pack of demons and angels. Okay, we're all hardwired with it because they're frequencies of consciousness. And some of those frequencies of consciousness, when they are not properly directed or controlled or understood, just sort of run amok through our psyche, through our lives, like burning Drano, But it's not that they don't belong there, because if they're there, they belong there. They're there to do something, and where that level of consciousness goes, they need you. Okay, they need you to direct their untapped energies, in the same way that the myth of Solomon, King Solomon. Okay, he used demons to build the great temple. Okay, that was his labor union. Okay, but
Are these beings independent intelligence, archetypes, aspects of our own consciousness?
Everything is in your head. Everything, including everything you think is outside of your head. So I wrote a couple books as Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. Okay, I had to invent my own rabbi so I could quote myself. Okay, and Rabbi Ben Clifford says it's all in your head, but you just have no idea how big your head is. Okay, and he really means that, because ultimately, the Kabbalists say there's four parts of our soul, if you will. There's the animal part, then there's the intellect, ruach part, and there's this thing called the neshama, which is roughly translated soul, intuition. But that's not, the neshama is not limited by time and space. When a mother wakes up in the middle of the night and she knows her child is in trouble or has been in an accident or something, that's because the child can never leave the mother's neshama. Okay. But it seems like it's outside, doesn't it? The child may be on the moon or on Alpha Centauri or a million light years away, and the mother would still get that message in the middle of the night. That's how big the mother's neshama is. It's kind of depressing, actually, when you think about mothers. But that means there is no outside of your head. And there is, ultimately, you are that number one consciousness. Okay. It's not outside of yourself. It's not someplace you're going to. It's someplace you already are, and you just haven't woken up to it.
Is it just a matter of not having focused on it, not having found it internally yet?
Yeah. So, in the same way as those abstract Kabbalistic concepts are easily visualized in the individual tarot cards, okay, in that same way, the magical forces, angels, spirits, demons, intelligences, the Kabbalists have them all categorized. I mean, these guys they had a lot of time on their hands, okay, and they've got them categorized in anal retentive neatness, and their names all add up to the right numbers, because like prime numbers fit inside greater numbers and things like that. there ultimately isn't an outside of yourself. And so, for the purpose of trying to get in control of everything that's inside yourself, deal with them as angels, spirits. Okay, you use the word independent. I mean, are the demons in some section of hell playing poker, just waiting for you to call them up? You know, on their, oh, there's the phone. I gotta go to Lon. No. Okay, I don't believe in it like that at all. But for the sake of focusing on one particular magical force that is that spirit's job in the cosmos, and currently that spirit's not doing their job, you know, as you would need it to do. Yeah, you, for the purpose of the ceremony, you play along with the fact that these are objective beings living.
We're gonna have to dive into the objective beings on the other side of another station break. Please stay with us as Lon and I continue to explore occult tools. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. Can the occult help us today? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with Lon Milo DuQuette. His website, lonmiloduquette.net. Lon, how can occult tools help people navigate the challenges of the modern world?
Well, just like putting a tarot deck in order gives you, in a certain sense, a reboot. It takes your chaotic world and makes it a reboot. You reboot. I didn't do much today, but I put one thing in order. It starts with putting something in order, putting yourself in order. I use the term a psychic reboot. And, you know, to tell you the truth, it is like a lube job. Because if we were actually chugging away our psychic machinery in a well-oiled manner, we would be clear and clear and clear reflections of the divine consciousness, of the universal consciousness, because that's exactly what we are. And at each step of that waking up process, the Kabbalists would say, as I move from 10 to 9 to the wakeness of 8 to the awakeness of 7, it's okay, all the way up to Godhead, I realize how increasingly universal I really am. Okay. We put it in kind of psychological terms and say magical practices such as this serve to increasingly intensify our own self-realization. And when I came away from that first acid experience, I knew that self-realization was the only thing in life truly worth going for. And if you can get to that realization, anything that you do, I'm sorry, I don't say that any religion is wrong or anything that you can do to facilitate your own self-realization is probably the best thing you can do with your incarnation. And so for me, I love in the same way I have taste in music, in the same way I have taste in movies and drama, and I have taste in how I want to go about my self-realization. And when I stumbled on magic and to satisfy my meat brain part, I stumbled on Qabalah, and where I saw how magic and Qabalah were actually the same thing. I knew that nothing else was going to satisfy. And when I ran across the works of Aleister Crowley, at first I was totally freaked out because this guy had just such a horrible reputation, and I called himself the Beast 666, and he just pushed all of the fear buttons, you know, but something about him was like, gosh, but he knows everything that I want to find out, you know. And then as the months and years pass and I meet people that actually lived and worked with him and everything else, they made me feel silly that I was that afraid. Okay. My friend from the old hippie days, Mad Bob, we called him, and he's a saint. We all know saints. Okay. He's one of them. And he came back from Guatemala, and I told him what I was into tarot and this Aleister Crowley character, and I said, oh, then I found out he was a devil worshiper or some kind. And Bob looked at me like I was the stupidest person in the world, because he told me so. That's why I knew he was thinking that. And he said, look, this guy knows everything that you want to find out, experienced everything you want to experience, and he was not afraid to tell people about it. I said, yeah, but was he a devil worshiper? Was he a Satanist? And he goes, no. And then he goes, well, yes. And he said, no. Well, if he was a Satanist, he was a really good kind of Satanist. Okay, you're just going to love this guy. And he was right. Okay, I read the Book of Thoth, and 99% of it just went way over my head. But the 1% I could grasp was, okay, this guy's brilliant, because he's talking about this consciousness shift in humanity that we were talking about at the very beginning of our chat here today. And that is, humanity as a whole goes through leaps, dimensional leaps in consciousness. And it all has to do with something very fundamental that the entire world experiences at the same time, that completely changes their focus of reality. And that is our relationship with the sun. Okay, for a great period in human history, we thought, well, for a great period, we didn't even pay that much attention to the sun. We're just trying to fill our bellies, okay, and survive from moment to moment. And that was, we'd call that an aeon. There was an aeon where we were just, woman was magic, because we didn't even know where our babies came from. They just popped out of a woman, and we didn't know where the food came from, and everything else just pops out of the ground. Okay. That was something we all shared, and the magical formula all dealt with goddess worship, and woman woman worship, and that was all connected to the moon, the cycles of the moon that the women are in tune with, and they swell like the moon and then empty, and all of a sudden there's a new little og. But then we started to put two and two together, that the animals don't come, the crops don't grow, or the food doesn't grow when the sun is weak. And then we realize we need the sun. It's a partnership between the sun and the earth. And then we get all freaked out that the sun dies. Oh God, it goes down at night. Oh shoot, everything's going to be lost, and it goes further south. Well, if you're in the northern hemisphere, it goes further south in the wintertime. And we don't know whether it's ever going to come back or not, So it's a new, improved way of looking at things. And there came a time when all of us, most of us, put two and two together, that we needed the sun. That was another shift in human consciousness. And it was another point of view of the universe and reality that we didn't have before. So it was an improvement, but it was still a mistaken improvement. And then it became, the sun and all this patriarchal stuff and kings and life came out of death. So we were sacrificing each other just to make the sun come up, And as long as we kept doing, sure enough, the sun came up.
Go figure, right?
Go figure.
You often emphasize enlightenment doesn't require abandoning everyday life. Why is that important?
Oh God, you got to keep everyday life to keep gaining enlightenment. No, it's you integrate all of this in the same way as your consciousness is integrated with everything you do in everyday life. I mean, I'm a struggling householder. Constance and I have been married for 58 years.
Ooh, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Congratulate her for putting up with all of this. As a matter of fact, it's a necessary partnership of we were on this journey together, and we're so lucky. Or at least I'm so lucky. Anyway, no, I integrate. I can't be who I'm not, and what I am is kind of a wild and crazy magician. And once you're a magician, everything you do is magic. And when you screw up in life, you've magically screwed up.
That puts my heart at ease, I have to tell you.
So you don't do magic to make your life. No, you do magic to make your life magic. Okay. And it is a perpetual background meditation at all times. And I'm not consciously thinking, oh, that's that Hebrew letter this, or, oh, that's that cipher. No. The purpose of magic is to make yourself a magician.
Well, Lon, it's about that time. So before we close, I have to ask you, what's your mission?
My mission is to completely exhaust my potentiality.
That is a worthy mission.
It'll probably take a while.
Just might. What final message would you like to leave our listeners who are seeking empowerment, evolution, and deeper meaning?
Trust yourself.
There we have it. Lon, unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Our gratitude to Lon Milo DuQuette for sharing his wisdom with us today. To explore Lon's books, teachings, and music, visit lonmiloduquette.net. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. But please, be sure to join us again next time on Mission Evolution as we continue our journey into the expanding frontier of human potential.